We bought our first home around 1 year ago, and it was a whirlwind of an experience and definitely a learning curve because obviously it was our first time, and secondly, at that age we didn't have tons of knowledge as to how this process works, so it was very new to us. But we definitely learned a lot along the way, and I thought it'd be really good to share the whole process from start to finish in a very summarized way as to how it works, what to expect, and hopefully that helps you. So a little bit of background: we moved to Didcot, and this is in South Oxfordshire, about an hour away from London, has really good links into London, 40 minutes, but we actually didn't know this place existed before we moved here. Our original place that we wanted to move to was around Bristol, and I had a job in London, so does my husband, so it made sense to obviously move near the south of England, but obviously I had dreams of moving somewhere that had a lot of water and nice scenery, and I'd visited Bristol over the summer and I just fell in love with it. I quickly came to realise that it felt a little bit too far away from our families and it was very, very far away from work. So we had to make a decision as to where we wanted to move. So we ended up finding a triangle area that felt like it was near to a lot of places in England that I actually wanted to visit over the summer periods, like Wales, but also an hour to 1.5 hours away from both of our families, which are very important factors to us. So it made sense for work and family reasons to move to Oxford. And this is really exciting because I'd visited Oxford many times, but I never ever thought I'd live here. And now that I've made the move, I've honestly fallen in love with the city. So all in all, we wanted something that was one of good value and that would actually rise in value over time so that we could use the equity for our second future home. Secondly, something that was close to my in-laws but also my family back at home in Leicester. Thirdly, somewhere that we can locate to that is not too far from work and has good links to London, although I've just recently found a new job in Oxford, so it means I don't have to go to London anymore. And fourthly, somewhere that we just feel at home. And obviously it's a very new place for us, but so far in this last year I've definitely felt and fell in love with the city. It has a lot of culture, and honestly in the summer I just absolutely fall in love with the atmosphere in Oxford. Anyway, we're not here to sell Oxford. Let's talk about the different steps that we went through from start to finish. The first step was actually finding the home itself. So for a very long time, I was on the lookout on websites like Zoopla and Rightmove, as everyone does. And we knew that we were in the process of wanting to buy a home, but I wasn't actually very sure as I was just settling in London, just working and getting on with life. But we definitely had hopes, and at that time me and my husband weren't actually married, so it was definitely something we were aspiring to, but not something that we expected to happen so quickly. We found this home on Rightmove. Very quickly we organised a Zoom call with the new builder. Obviously this process might differ if it's a non-new build, but this was with Redrow, which are a very good traditional builder, which means that they use the very traditional brick and block style of infrastructure, which I think is quite good. So we decided to view this virtual plan of the home on the Zoom call, where someone from the Redrow side walks us through the entire process of buying a new build in terms of space that we get within the new build, the virtual floor plans, what plot it would be, how much it would cost. So within a new build site, there are a multitude of varieties of homes that you can buy. There are some terraced options, there are usually some semi-detached and detached options, and there are some different styles of semi-detached options. So our first option was actually a lot cheaper than the one that we went for. It was a lovely home and very similar style, but it was missing the space that I think really broke up the living room and the kitchen space. So it didn't have a hallway, there was no option to have an island in the kitchen, and bathrooms were a lot smaller. And I think all in all, new builds are generally more expensive and smaller anyway. With this lack of space, I think we definitely would have struggled. So we looked for option 2, which was a little bit higher, and it did entice us successfully. This was around £40,000 more, and we weren't exactly sure if this was in our budget. So that was the next step. It was scheduling a call with our mortgage broker, and we actually found a really, really great mortgage broker from the Redrow builder itself. Now, what was great about this mortgage broker was that he had zero fees, which I think is really important because they can charge up to £1,000 to £2,000 every mortgage that you take out. And 2, he explained the whole process so well, especially in the months leading up to getting our secured mortgage and interest rate. It was a time of interest rate hikes, and we really wanted to make sure we secured something that was at the best that we could do, especially in terms of our location, salaries, and how much we felt comfortable in spending. So some of the things that they asked for are your payslips, your outgoings, your incomings, in terms of the different streams of income that you might have. All of that contributes to how much you can borrow from the bank. And so they calculate this taking into consideration your salary, but also how much deposit that you'll be putting down. So we put around a £45,000 deposit. This was just over 10%, and this is the norm. A 90 to 10% LTV is usually the norm when buying a new build, and any more than that I didn't really want to put, just because it didn't make that much difference to the monthly mortgage outgoings, and two, I'd rather use that extra cash flow into doing the house up. So then this gave us a good overall picture as to which home that we actually felt comfortable in buying, but also secondly, what we could expect our monthly outgoings to be. And I didn't expect so much of an increase, but it is also down to the interest rates being quite high at that time. Luckily, we got in at 4.56% using a sustainable mortgage, because our EPC rating was B and above, meant that we were able to track down a mortgage that was very rare but gave us a low interest rate. But also our house value in the south was a lot more than I expected, just because I've come from the Midlands and they're not as expensive over there. It was a little bit of a shock to our systems. Moving on to step 3. Once we were very happy with the house that we wanted to buy, we saw the blueprints, we saw the plans, we saw how much it was going to cost us, and we got a little sneak peek of the inside as to what it might look like. And we'd made the decision, we put our non-refundable reservation fee down. So this is different from your deposit. This is just a very small sum of money to secure this house, or plot as they call it, under your name. And this was £1,000 for us. This means that no one can come and snatch away our plot while people are looking. This is really important, just because sometimes certain areas and builds can be very, very high in demand, and especially if you get some people that are cash buyers, not first time buyers, and have no chain, they can come in and swoop your property right away from you very, very quickly. So you've got to get in there fast. It's a very difficult decision to do that quickly, but sometimes when you feel like something is the one, just got to go with your gut. What will happen is, during this whole process, until you put that deposit down, you actually end up having a lot of calls with your builder, or it might be your estate agent that is looking after the property that you're looking at, just to understand the process of buying, what decision that you're at. They definitely help you in this process, but it is a very personal decision that you need to make, especially if you're buying it with someone, if you're ready for that step and also that financial commitment, because it can really affect your disposable income left over, especially if you're looking to do things like traveling or having kids or saving up for something big. This wasn't an easy decision, but we got there in the end. Now, this property that we bought was actually an off-plan property. So you can get two types. You can get on-plan and off-plan. On-plan are already usually built and you have the blueprints, you're able to see the house itself, and a lot of the time they've decorated it, furnished it, chosen options. Whereas off-plan, which is what we did, actually only had blueprints and just a very virtual design on their computers. So we actually didn't have a house to go into and see, which makes it a little bit more difficult because you can't visualize the space as well. But it does have its perks. One being that you get to design and choose the kind of types of tiling that you want, any additional features like upgrades on sockets and media walls and wardrobes, although they can be very costly when going through the new build. But it definitely allows you to customize your home a little bit more than if you were to buy something on plan. This was the exciting part, which I'll talk through in a little bit, as to what we got to decide and choose, and it was my personal favourite part of the process. So, bringing us on to the most exciting step of the whole process, my personal favourite, it was show homes and choosing the upgrades and choosing your interiors. So we didn't get a host of options because ours was a very traditional build, but there was a lot of things that we got to choose. Some of them being our kitchen flooring colour or type of tile, our type of carpet and the colour of the carpet, the bathroom tile, and also the types of furnishings within the bathrooms. So there are certain appliances that you can actually choose to upgrade. For example, we had some cooker hoods and extractor fan and a microwave option, which wasn't the best, but we actually chose to upgrade this whole appliance setting within our kitchen to the Siemens package, which meant that we got a built-in oven and microwave, saving us a lot of space on the countertops. Along with this, I was a little bit cheeky and asked to upgrade our kitchen island. So we didn't actually have one when we were choosing this. We actually chose to negotiate quite a bit before we put our reservation fee down, just so that we get the best value in our home. So we actually ended up getting a free island in our package, which included a granite countertop as well. So usually you get a laminate countertop, which don't tend to last a very long time, but we ended up negotiating this island, a granite countertop, and also some upgrades in our bathrooms, which meant that we didn't have to tile it fully. And our carpet was the fluffier option. I can't remember what the name is, but it turned out to be quite nice. So in this process, you get to do a couple of trips to see the site, and at that moment it was in its middle stage. They had built all the walls, you couldn't go inside, but you could see the ground, the garden, and the roof hadn't actually been put on yet. So that was the stage of our home when we were choosing all of these upgrades, and you just have to choose them by seeing some samples in the show homes, and it's quite difficult. I think looking back, I definitely would have chosen different things because my style has definitely changed, but it's the fun part. Then comes the next step, which is the serious part, and that is confirming your mortgage. A lot of people choose to secure this very, very early on, but we chose to really play it a little bit risky and decide 1 month before exchange date. We had predicted that rates would come down very slightly, which they did when we did secure the rate, and also we were phoning all around England to find a broker that did a very green sustainable mortgage, which actually had a lower interest rate because our new build property was an EPC rating of B. So that meant that the broker that we were working with couldn't actually supply us our mortgage, and we had to find a random company that did this very specific mortgage and actually negotiated 0 fees in that company as well, because they get a commission from when they actually sell us that mortgage. So that bit worked out for us, but I wouldn't recommend leaving it very last minute just because things can go wrong, and we actually got very lucky that everything went okay. And we secured a 2-year fixed interest rate, and actually we need to renew in a couple of months now. So we're fingers crossed that the rates do come down. Bank of England, please do something about it. But I think with the rate that the economy is going, I think it is quite important that the rates do come down very slightly, just to help so many businesses out there and us. All of this gets confirmed with your solicitor and your mortgage broker, and the exchange date is confirmed, which is so exciting, but it can be very, very far away too. And our exchange date was due to be October, and we were in the month of May during this whole process, and very suddenly it got moved to June while I was renting in London on a fixed contract. So that was fun. Usually your new build gets delayed in terms of its build, but ours was done quicker, which is good news, but I also meant that I would have had to pay the mortgage and rent at the same time, which is not fun. Luckily, I was able to get off my housing contract in London early and scoop in and move into our new build. So the last step was, once all our documents were in place, our mortgage was secured, our solicitors took the money from our lifetime ISA, which we had to initiate the process quite early on. All our documents being secured and held with the solicitor, our mortgage being confirmed, our exchange date being given to us, and fourthly, making sure that your affordability was all secured and you were ready to pay your deposit. So our deposit came from some cash that we'd built up in savings over time, but also a lot of it came from our lifetime ISA, which is something that me and my husband had been putting money in for quite a few years, because the government actually gives you 25% of your savings for free, which meant that £1,000 for every £4,000 that you put in every year is given for free towards our home. And we ended up putting our deposit down. So what that means is, once you put your deposit down, you are then legally bound to buy the home. It's a very scary feeling, and our funds then went through the solicitor and to Redrow. And this process takes a couple of days, but once it's secured, it means that that house is officially yours. From this process onwards, on to the end is just a couple of visits onto your site. We made quite a few trips to Oxford in the summer, which was really nice, and visited our home. You do a couple of hard hat visits with the builder to see the insides, how it's looking, the space, the options that you want to choose, if the sockets and things are in the right places, and if there's anything wrong with the builder as well. And so in this whole process, you just get to be all excited and go shopping, which is what I did. I visited IKEA so many times and bought many things in the process of going into our new home. Once you have your completion date, you actually can't get your keys until the solicitor completes the process on that day. So ours was completed around 11 a.m. in the morning, but a lot of people end up turning up at the property at like 8 in the morning because they're very excited. But until the whole process goes into place, you actually can't get the keys. Once we got this time given to us, we drove to Oxford and we had a nice big red bow on our house, and we entered our house for the first time and just soaked it all in. It was honestly one of the most amazing feelings that ever could have happened to us, and I'm so grateful to where we are today in this house. But definitely the journey was very long and there was a lot to learn. So I definitely hope that this helped in terms of explaining just what happens and what to expect from start to finish. Obviously there's a lot more detail that we could go into, but hopefully this helps. And if you're buying a new build or a new home, let me know. It's very exciting. It is a roller coaster of a process, but it's completely worth it. So best of luck. And we're so excited to share more about this space soon. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.